Critical Hit. I'm Matthew.
I'm David.
I'm Kyle.
Today we're talking about Castle in the Sky, another one of our movies on Month-a-zaki. So Castle in the Sky, it's a pretty good one. It's old. It's around the same time Nazca came out. To explain it is a little difficult. This movie is a little bit of everything. But suffice to say, there's this young girl named Shita, and she has a powerful amulet that a lot of people want. The government being one of them, and the government's agent Muska, I think.
Muska.
Yeah, Muska. He's being sent to retrieve this amulet because it leads to the Castle in the Sky, which is the city of Laputa, which is a floating, hidden city. It's been a myth for years. And the story goes on from there. But it has a lot of elements in it. Like I said, air pirates, giant machines, magic. It has like a little bit of everything, which is kind of fun. There's even like a train chase. It's a cool little movie.
Very.
So
it's just fun.
Opening thoughts for me. I think, like you just said, like it's a really fun movie. It does a really good job of just being, adventure-y, and just there's great combat scenes that are very colorful, and you don't really expect that from Miyazaki films. Usually, it's very like dark and gritty. Like
normally when he does a combat piece, there's this oh my gosh, someone's going to die moment here. And you get that in some of these fights, but a lot of them, it's just
to the point where even like
it's almost enjoyable.
Even grenades are a little playful in the way they explode in their colors in this movie. It's kind of fun.
It's mainly in the fights with the air pirates. Because they're sort of like the anti-villain, I guess.
They're the Team Rockets of this movie.
Exactly.
They're very goofy.
They're a step above Team Rocket.
So especially more towards the beginning of the movie when there's more fights with them, they're always they're very cartoonish, very Looney Tunesy. They're more fun. You're never really under the real illusion that anyone will die at that point.
No, when one of them gets hit in the face with a shovel, it's like, he got hit in the face with a shovel, oh my gosh, his face got beat in, kind of a thing.
So suffice for me, I would say this is definitely a must-see. It's a really fun film. Just a different beat than a lot of other Miyazaki films.
Yeah.
Kyle?
I like it. I think that it's high-flying, it's an adventure story.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of things that you don't always get in a lot of Miyazaki. This one's fun because it doesn't have to deal in moral ambiguities. It doesn't have to deal with villains who are really have these deep motivations and insecurities about them.
Well, the characters aren't really complicated.
No, you have good guys
nice.
And bad guys. It's a fun black and white piece, which
Yeah.
makes it a really good adventure story for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I know that we watched
Lupin
the Third.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks back. And my main criticism was that it was just it was frivolous, but it wasn't. But it just didn't fully do it for me. But this is actually, I kind of think it's that general style, but it actually worked for me a lot more.
Probably, partially because you didn't have to know the characters to enjoy it.
Yeah, I didn't know the character, and it also goes somewhere more deep.
I would agree. I think there's both Lupin the Third and Castle in the Sky have that lightheartedness adventure to it, but there is a little more here.
Yeah.
Especially by the end of the movie, that kind of just gets with you. And so it's nice and it's like a heart-filled movie, I would say.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
And it does have lighthearted elements, but a lot of times when I watch like modern, especially Western animation, you get this trade-off of lighthearted and I would say poor content.
Yeah.
Where a lighthearted film, like I think of How to Train Your Dragons 2, which just doesn't deliver a good content and lightheartedness. It either sacrifices one or the other. Whereas this movie does a really good job of having a very lighthearted adventure story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having darker elements that kids need to be exposed to. And it does it very gently and carefully, in like you said, a black and white way, so that you're not just messing up somebody who watches this movie, but rather they understand, there is good and evil, and this is how evil is portrayed.
And making that very slimy spy master Mark Hamill kind of person there.
Yeah.
He hams it up and he does it perfectly.
He does a great job.
I love him as a villain.
Yeah.
He does such a good job because you're always certain that Mark Hamill, when he's playing the villain, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
You don't have the moral ambiguity issue.
Which is so different than most Miyazaki villains. Think about we saw
there's
Nausicaa,
a lot
where you have
that's
that you're a bad guy, and then oh wait, you have good reasons or good intentions, but you're still a bad guy. But with Muska, you're just you're evil. And that's the end of the story for the character. It's kind of refreshing in that.
Well, I think it kind of works for. I think it helps integrate sort of the high flying adventure with the serious aspects.
Yeah,
I mean it's okay, there are definitely nuances to the story, but they're not found in the villain.
Yeah,
and I think that helps it work with the kind of high flying adventure.
Yeah,
structure.
No, there's a lot of things that you can kind of see Miyazaki's played with it in other movies. One thing that I kind of enjoy, because it goes against so many other things, is how the ancient civilization that you get here, it's not necessarily like the ancients were good and now the modern is bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, you get that so much in so many
Well,
movies.
it's not a Garden of Eden. Like, even though it's beautiful, like when you get there, Laputa still has a lot of problems.
But it's beautiful mainly because of the shrubs and stuff that have grown up after it was ruined.
No, that's a good point.
It isn't a case where like the civilization itself was beautiful. It's the fact that the civilization died and something grew over it that was beautiful. And that's what I like. Is that
the lack of humanity actually makes the place better.
It's similar in some ways to the the war machines from Nausicaa, the 7 Days of Fire. Was that it?
Yeah.
And how it's better that those things are now gone.
Yeah.
It's almost like humanity is on a cycle, and you're seeing like the end of the last cycle where they got really advanced, but then they used the technology.
Well,
for evil.
that's the thing is like the entire time you hear in the movie the castle in the sky, the legendary Laputa, like this great city, and when they finally get there, at first it has that beauty of nature encroaching on everything, but then you learn that it actually is basically a miniature Death Star. Like the entire thing's a giant gun.
It is
that floats in the air.
Here's the thing about it: they start off introducing it to you as kind of Patsu's pet project, really.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that it ties him to his father. His father saw this way back when. The only other then tie to Laputa we get is with Sheeta, and she seems like a wonderful person.
She's a princess from that ancient kingdom.
And you don't know that yet, but even so, she has ties to it, and you like her, and she's very likable, and everything seems very good until you have someone like Muska shows up.
Yeah.
And then you see that there's this whole other side to it. Yeah. This whole other side to, I think, even adventure, which is what this movie's showing you.
Yeah.
Where there's a certain amount that's good, but then there's a danger that comes as a natural part of it here. You know.
Well, the first thing that you encounter from Laputa itself, besides like the amulet she has, is this war machine that falls out of the sky.
Yes.
Like the robot, and when it comes back to life in the movie, it just like lasers things in half, and it just sets fire and does this crazy amount of destruction.
Again, the way that Miyazaki chose to do these kinds of flashback hypothetical moments is he chose this slightly Germanic style of art.
It's beautiful.
It's really, really beautiful. Again, showcasing that he has this knowledge of Western art.
Yeah.
Vast knowledge of Western art from America, France, and apparently some Germanic stuff.
The chase
as well.
scenes are straight out of Looney Tunes.
It's
like slamming the shovel in the guy's face and the ripping your shirt to show how muscular you are. Like there's this like.
But in this case, you have the issue of the robot then falls on these people who are farming.
Yeah.
And it's that. It's nature. Those who are in harmony with nature, those who are not in harmony with nature.
Military, if you will. Yeah.
Well, military, if you will, or these Laputa people who with their guns and.
Yeah.
There's a different way of doing nature in this one. You get a little bit of it seems almost like the only time you get it is when you're up in Laputa and you see nature's kind of taken over the civilization.
Yeah.
And that's your kind of standard Miyazaki green things, trees, that sort of stuff. And then there's one other instance, which is, underground, in the mines. You see, this is the only time you really see Miyazaki playing with stone,
with
and
rock
the mountains
itself,
and rock as being the representative of nature. And you see that with the crystals underground and such. Normally he's playing either with like the sea or with a forest, something like that. Something that.
Something more exotic, but it's
something more exotic. Something also
sense,
a little bit more feminine normally, which is interesting about this movie is that this is the Miyazaki movie with the male main character here.
Yeah.
It's a little boy, and so often you hear the trope about Miyazaki is he always does the little girl as his protagonist.
It's a frustrating critique where I've heard it a lot too, where people say that like they like Miyazaki films, but it's always about a female character. Yeah. And like frankly, I'm like, well, what? Duh. Like it's Miyazaki's thing. It's not a problem. But like. This movie really turns that stereotype people have about Miyazaki on its head because there is so much masculinity in this movie. It's very interesting, very boyish.
It's a very boyish. I think that part of that is that goes along very well with the style of adventure that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just a funny job of just like demonstrating acts of manliness and like you're saying like manliness with nature. In a very in a way that like even I don't really expect from a Miyazaki film. Like it touches on what it is to be. a boy or what a boy thinks a man should be a lot.
Well, you get the opening with Patsu is he's working in the mines with the older men, and he just gets so excited the moment he's offered the chance to do the job that someone older than him's been doing.
Yes.
Where he gets to use the tools that are involved, and then he gets immediately serious. Which I don't know about you guys, but that was me growing up when I had that chance to. Okay, I get to use the drill now. This is awesome. Better focus because it's all on me now.
You're careful with the hammer and the nail the first time. You got like 7 or 8. You're like, I'm gonna be, but like you had the excitement of like doing the man job, and like everything on the movie kind of has that in it. Like even the like when they're being chased, it's Patsu is helping Shita escape from the pirates, and it's that classic like I want to help protect the girl from the bad things. Like and like there's this scene where they run into a house and Patsu stands outside and he puffs himself up, and his dad's standing there, and he puffs himself up, and there's this like big like macho man.
Well, it wasn't his dad; it was the boss. It was his boss.
Oh, it was his boss. Okay, but like because he's an orphan, that's right. But the boss, the others like they puff up, and the pirates show up, and the first thing they do is they act all tough, and there's just like this.
They haven't. It's like Full Metal Alchemist, Armstrong flex off kind of a thing going on here.
It's so funny though, like. It's not portrayed as like manhood and this is what you should be, but like you could tell everyone is kind of laughing about how goofy boys will be boys in this movie.
Right, and the boys themselves are laughing at themselves.
As they punch each other, they like start laughing.
They punch each
Yeah,
other.
it's just like, and it's just a fun movie because you have all these scenes where the boy Patsu or the men in the village do these like manly things, if you will, but it's also very like self-aware, very goofy, and they know they're being goofy.
Yes,
like he does like the macho pose, and he just does. He's a boy. Like, it doesn't look epic. It just looks very goofy, but he knows that. He still does it. And it's like there's that fun aspect of the almost the foolishness associated with being a guy that works really well in this story.
And I think that it's that foundation that helps to propel this character once he gets into those more desperate situations.
Yeah.
He's growing up. He's chasing after Lapida, is getting closer to his father. He's kind of following in his footsteps, and when he gets there, he actually has to kind of be a man and deal with some very grown-up issues at that point.
I mean, he gets shot at when he's at the castle. Like, he deals with actual villains by the end of the story.
Yeah.
Confronts them in like directly, like in a very like honorable, manly way.
And I think in a way that that's kind of indicative of what this movie does. Is it kind of gives something that let me see if I can express this better. Mm-hmm. It's giving you this. It's using play to teach how one should be when they grow up. Mm-hmm. It's using this sort of adventure, fighting, goofing off. It gives you this very black and white kind of depiction of the world.
Yeah.
And it's almost training up the child in how to be a man. By providing this kind of fun story that just says, you do good. You be a good person. Mm. You have fun. And then when the real adventure shows up, you're going to have to step up, but you'll be ready.
You still do good.
Right.
Like, you should always be good, like Patsu does, and like the men in his life teach him to be, like, to do.
Yeah.
And all the while, the movie does a great job of avoiding, like, the tropes that you have when you have masculinity, like, in storytelling. So it's like yeah, there's the girl he takes care of, but it's not the damsel in distress. Like, she takes care of herself the entire time.
She has so much agency, even as she's being looked after by this whole community, and it's not just the males, but the males are looking after her in one way while the females are looking after her in a different way.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've talked a lot about like the masculinity in this movie, but at the same time there are a bunch of like I would say couples. Like there's the guy girl teams in this movie. There's like 3 or 4 I can think of right now.
Right.
And all of them have this very good job of balancing these characters very well.
Well, and even there's what's her name? The pirate Dola.
Dola. Yeah.
She's a nice. She seems almost like she's breaking the type because she's doing what might be a more masculine role.
Well, she's the boss of the pirates.
She's the boss pirate lady there. And her husband is kind of, the
mechanic.
He's the mechanic guy. Yeah. But they're a fun couple still because he gets her and he sees the feminine qualities of her and he can point out that, you're kind of like the little girl.
Yeah.
You're kind of like Sheeta, actually.
Yeah. Well,
she reminds me of you.
He even says at one point, like when Sheeta is working on the pirate ship and all the boys are just going crazy about her, he even makes a comment about, she reminds me of you at a younger age. And there's this fun, like, acknowledgement of that.
And she's going, what are you talking
about?
Exactly.
Kind of she's very tough, but there's also that persona of this character acknowledging that, no, you are a lot like her. And you and it's just fun because you have those moments where these characters work well together. Like,
it's not pigeonholing people into a particular space,
Yeah.
but it is allowing people to express maybe parts of themselves that they feel like because of their profession they're not allowed to.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And the teams are just awesome. Like the boss's wife is another good example where she talks to she pulls Patsu out of fighting. He's like, you can't be in the fight, and Patsu's like, I have to defend her. And she basically turns that around on him and is like, well, if you go out there to fight, who's gonna watch after Sheeta? And then he's like, oh, you're right, I need to guard.
I better guard
the girl.
What a man does.
And so it's cool because the women are aware too in this movie.
Yeah.
And they all play off each other in a very loving way without being like, it's not abrasive in any way towards either gender.
No, I don't think so.
So, and it's just nice because usually when you have like one of the genders showing up a lot, you kind of get overwhelmed. And this movie does a great job of demonstrating masculinity and femininity to a point, without like getting in your face about it. Just more of a celebration.
It's also one of the instances where Miyazaki gets to show that technology itself is not necessarily bad because he plays with more clean machines and such, and he gets to then play with flight in a way that's he almost turns off his mind to the part of him that knows that airplanes can be used for evil, the kinds of stuff that you see in some of his other movies, and unless it's being used by the bad guy, it's just a fun thing. It's a good movie. I feel like we're not giving it. I feel like we're not doing it justice. It's just hard to express some of what this movie really is. It's kind of something that you have to experience firsthand and that you have to feel. Yeah. And yeah.
You want to do closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. I thought it balanced the sort of the fun element with some very heavy themes to the point where it's a very well-rounded movie. Yeah. If I were to describe, which I mean, it really does well what I thought Lupin III didn't do super well. So yeah, I very actually, this is actually one of my favorite Miyazaki films now.
Oh yeah,
Lupin seems to I think Lupin, it started off with that playful tone that this one then emulates. But whereas Lupin did it with one chase scene at the beginning before throwing you into the deeper stuff, this movie decided we're going to set up an entire world and a boy's childhood and all of these other things to really hook you in and invest you, and then builds from there into the dramatic and the deeper themes.
Yeah, I mean, like I would say I would definitely put this on my, like, if you were going to introduce someone to Miyazaki, this is on the must-see list. This is one of the few movies I'd also say that is great for really young kids.
Yeah, like I was saying before, this is a really good one to get kids into.
Yeah, absolutely. Miyazaki. Like, this is a great, like, personally, I would say this is a great boy movie. Like, when you have that big, like, those boy sleepovers, this would be one of the movies I think about playing.
This is also, I would say, where Miyazaki started to, I think this is when he started to figure out pacing. Yeah, and it paces very well. Because his earlier stuff before this, Nausicaa, and even Lupin, it's a little bit slow. Yes, has slow points. Has trouble getting itself set up. Yeah. But I think that by learning to do a more traditional piece, he really figured it out in a way that's going to help him out in the future. Yeah, but this was a great movie for that. It really is, and I agree with David that this is one of my favorites. And it just is really fun, and like it celebrates the joys of that kind of life. And kind of encourages you to be adventurous too. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so far, Month-a-zaki this year has been really fun for me. Like, we've been hitting some really good movies, and I'm excited that we're going to be ending on Kiki's Delivery Service. Yes. Which is a fun movie. I haven't seen it yet. You haven't seen that one?
No. Okay. I haven't seen it either.
So. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this one, it's pretty different from Castle in the Sky. Actually, it kind of flips from masculine to feminine, and it's really good. So also a coming of age story, though. Yes, is what absolutely. And it's playful, but it's gonna be that'll be next time. I think you guys are both gonna like it. Okay. Yeah. No. So, looking forward to that. Yeah, that'll be good. But thank you for joining us, guys. And we'll be seeing you guys soon.